to everyone. Welcome to the second Wacana Ilmu webinar series organized by English Language Teaching Center, Ministry of Education. This second installment of the webinar series will continue to deliberate on the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum, its issues, challenges, and way forward. I'm Professor Hazita Azman from Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia and currently the chair for the English Language Standard and Quality Council, or ELSQC, Ministry of Education. In the first webinar of this series, we traced the introduction of the CEFR-aligned English language curriculum in schools and the journey that English language education in Malaysia has experienced in the implementation and operationalization of the aligned curriculum. Issues pertaining to the implications of the aligned curriculum for English language teaching and assessment in our schools especially were raised and discussed. In today's webinar session, we will deliberate deeper into these related issues and challenges experienced by teachers and students in the classroom and ponder on the best way forward to ensure efficient teaching and effective learning is achieved as aspired with the introduction of the aligned curriculum. To deliberate on these issues with me today are three distinguished ladies with important roles in monitoring the implementation of the aligned curriculum in the education system. I'm pleased to have with us today fellow ELSQC member, Professor Dr. Ainul Mazia binti Zubairi from the Kuliah of Education, International Islamic University, Malaysia. And a warm and special welcome to Ms. Eileen Jessie Ahkuan, the Principal Assistant Director of the English Unit Language and Literature Sector, Curriculum Development Division. And to Puan Azidah binti Abdul Aziz, from the School Inspector of the Inspectorate of Schools, State of Selangor, Ministry of Education. Welcome and thank you ladies for being with us today. I'd like to begin by revisiting some concerns raised from the audience in the first webinar pertaining to the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum itself. In the first webinar, the panel described how the aligned curriculum was introduced to the teachers nationwide through a series of familiarization workshops conducted by Cambridge Assessment Education to master trainers who then cascaded to teachers at schools across the nation. Although this cascaded training has reached more than 61,000 English language teachers nationwide by 2020, there are many who remain unfamiliar with the CEFR concept or have limited understanding of its notions. Familiarization of CEFR is an important first step towards its successful implementation by the teachers at the ground level. And if a teacher is familiarized what is CFR and what it is not, then she is clear on what are the targeted competencies and how to develop lesson and assessment tasks to achieve them. But how should we address this problem where there are still teachers who are unfamiliar with the concept of CFR, especially in ensuring that all teachers of all levels at all schools are familiarized and have a common and thorough understanding of the CFR-aligned curriculum? What are some of the misconceptions about CFR that have emerged due to lack of familiarization? So, Prof. Ainul, can I turn to you first to share your views on this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Azita, for the question. Right. Okay. When the new CFR-aligned curriculum was introduced, of course, there were only very few batches of teachers who went through the familiarization training at the very first phase. Yeah, so if you look at the slide, we saw that this is a cascading process that went through in order to get all the teachers to be familiarized. So as said by Prof. Hazita, The cascading of training needs time to reach all the teachers from the different levels of the school system, different types of school, as well as geographic locations. So it's quite a natural ripple effect to have teachers who claim that they're not familiar or not sure about the curriculum in the early stage. And I saw this in a lot of research that have been published over the years in 2018, 2019, that they have clearly indicated, research with teachers, and they've clearly indicated the different areas of confusion, or the different areas of concern in which the teachers address their unfamiliar concepts or unfamiliarity with the CFR curriculum. However, I must say that the scenario has improved ever since. Yeah? And I've seen this over the last 2 years, especially since 2020, and there have been more teachers who can actually articulate very well about the benefits of the new curriculum and how they see the curriculum works as far as meeting standards are concerned. And I say this from my own experience, having webinars and workshops, and even having school teachers in our master's programs, in which they have articulated well enough about the benefits, and also they are also very well aware of what's happening in the classroom. But Prof. Azizah mentioned that what are we going to do with the remaining, those who are unfamiliar? Well, I strongly believe that the misconception actually rooted from the early days when they thought that the new curriculum is something that is totally new in English language teaching. But slowly, when they've understood it, because of two things. One is that over the years, they had to do it. When teachers have to do things, so this is where they realize what the new curriculum is all about. And of course, we also saw a lot of sharing sessions. So many teachers have also been sharing what they do in the teaching and learning. And this has actually helped to get the teachers who are not familiar to actually get slowly into the system and see how they function. As to the question how to address the teachers who are novice teachers or pre-service teachers, I think at the university, we are also doing a lot of curriculum review in which the CFR elements are being addressed, not just in terms of familiarization, but also in terms of what the teachers need to do, in terms of the pedagogical approach and assessment approaches. So these are some of the things. And I must say again, two things that have happened over the years in which familiarization has improved is because teachers are doing it and they learn from others. Yeah, so I pass back to you, Prof. Azizah.
Thank you, Prof. Aino. Following on from there, we have also received inquiries about how teachers went about deciphering the aligned curriculum and the challenges they had experienced. I'd like to perhaps turn to Ms. Eileen. Can you briefly describe how teachers unpacked the curriculum when they received it in the classroom, and what are the challenges they faced, and how were those issues resolved? Ms. Eileen?
Thank you very much for the question, Prof. First of all, I think it's very enlightening to hear the feedback as how Prof. Aino related earlier on that things have improved in terms of teachers' familiarization. Of course, it takes time, and something new with change, it always takes time. So we have to be very patient to see results. Now, back to your question, Prof, on how do we unpack the curriculum? The phrase unpacking the curriculum may seem like a daunting task to some. And what do we understand by unpacking the curriculum? I think generally when we say we unpack the curriculum, we are trying to understand what the intent of the curriculum is in terms of how we deliver it. So we have to make sense of what this curriculum is, and if it is something totally new, then I think we do have to do a little bit of research on our own. But what the Ministry of Education has done is we have prepared the curriculum documents, right, for our teachers and for practitioners out there. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, the curriculum document, or the main curriculum document, is the standards-based curriculum and assessment document, or maybe more familiarly with others known as DSKP, right? And what this document does is it outlines the content and learning standards to be covered each year for primary and secondary pupils. Now, besides the content and learning standards, this DSKP also contains the performance standards, which teachers refer to when assessing pupils on the skills, as well as on the language arts component for primary and literature component for secondary. As to your question on what are the challenges faced by the teachers when they unpack the curriculum, we have many challenges, I believe, and I'm sure my colleagues here today will share with you. But from the curriculum standpoint, one of the issues we believe is that teachers need to know their pupils. And as we know in the classroom, we have pupils of varied levels, right? Not all are of the same size. So teachers will also need to be creative. And one of the ways I think is to differentiate. In the new curriculum, or newly aligned CFR curriculum, we actually focus a lot on differentiation. So when we plan lessons, I think teachers need to know that we can differentiate in terms of the activities or the tasks that we give our pupils. Besides activities, we can also differentiate in terms of the outcome that we want to achieve, the time that we need to complete the tasks, and also we can differentiate in terms of how much support we give to our pupils. Some may need more support and some may need less. So we as teachers, we need to use our judgment in the classroom. And I believe that the schemes of work, which is the document that we have prepared for our teachers, there are some suggested strategies in there, and teachers can refer to them. Another challenge that I would like to highlight here, which our teachers out there may face, I think is in terms of planning their lessons. Now, in the schemes of work, this is an excerpt from Form 3 schemes of work, or SOW. But generally in our schemes of work, there is mention there that there are basically two types of lessons that teachers plan. One is based on the textbook, which we call textbook-based lessons, and the other is the non-textbook-based lessons. Why is this a challenge? I think because when teachers plan for non-textbook-based, they do have to source materials from outside the main resource, which is the textbook. So teachers will need to source for suitable materials out there. They need to develop their own worksheets. They need to create props maybe to go with their lessons. So this takes time. And so we know that this is one thing that teachers hardly have nowadays. That's time. So in order to plan lessons effectively, teachers do need to plan, and teachers do need to be creative in coming up with a stimulus to create interest among our pupils. So I think that's a challenge for our teachers nowadays, to really find the time to create lessons creatively. So I hope that answers your question, Prof. Back to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Eileen. Sounds like BPK or CDC has actually somewhat unpacked the curriculum for the teachers by providing the documents, SPK especially, as well as the SOW. And yes, I agree that, again, the onus is back to the teachers in preparing the activities to be carried out. And perhaps another issue that will be raised is the time factor for them to prepare these activities. And I think previously in the first webinar, we had also touched on the possibility of teachers sharing their activities that are, activities that were tried and tested and found successful, perhaps being placed in a platform where they can share across schools even, or even district if it's set up for them, I think. Yeah, but these are the real challenges for them. And we moving forward, we will also think of ways of how to lessen the burden of preparation for the activities. Thank you, Ms. Eileen, for that. Regarding the same issue about challenges in implementing the curriculum in the classroom itself, whether it is useful for us to know about the real goings-on in the classroom, where we hope the curriculum is effectively carried out. And I think this is the privilege of Jemaah Nazir, where they are actually now, you visit the classrooms and to observe all this. So Puan Azida, can you share with us this status with insights into teachers' teaching and learning quality? And perhaps you could enlighten us with specific reference to the Standard 4 of Standard Quality Pendidikan Malaysia, Gelombang 2 or SKPMG2. Please, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Hazita. Yes, Jemaah Nazir JN or Inspectorate of Schools had carried out several inspections from the year 2018 until 2021 that involved the English language subject. Throughout this year, there were about 530 English language lessons being observed for the primary school and more than 450 lessons observed for the secondary schools. As for this year 2022, JN is planning to carry out an inspection that focuses on the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum. We, the school inspector, use Standard 4 in the SKPM G2 to actually look in observing the English language teacher and to determining the quality of the teachers. Okay, overall, based on our findings, the quality of the teachers teaching and learning in both primary and secondary schools is at moderate level. Teachers' strength in teaching and learning include their ability to adhere to the DSKP in their lesson planning, the ability to control pupils' communication in the classroom, the ability to actually let them work collaboratively through activities such as group work and group presentation. Some teachers were also found to incorporate fun learning in their lessons through activities like chants, action songs, and online quizzes. However, our observation found that most of the teaching and learning activities were teacher-centered. Teachers had tendency to use the whole classroom approach in their lesson. In addition, teachers did not ask questions that encourage pupils to use their creative and critical thinking skills. Remedial and enrichment activities were not being emphasized by the teachers. This is because the differentiated learning did not take place in the classroom. Most teachers prepared the one-size-fits-all kind of lesson. Okay, that's what we found during our observation. Pupils are still lacking in their English language communication skill. This is because they do not have the confidence to speak the language. Moreover, teachers did not actually carry out activities based on the targeted language. Okay, and also the classroom-based assessment, okay, they did not actually carry it out accordingly. I hope that answers your question, Prof.
Thank you, Puan Azida. Thank you for that input with regards to the study that you conducted. It's very worrying, actually, the result that you found, that because in terms of the the quality of teaching is still found to be quite moderate. Yeah, 65 to 69% was to be quite moderate, and all the aspects of teaching to be communicative that they were trained for, especially for the aligned curriculum, is still not evident in the classroom. Yeah, and that's worrying because this is what we had hoped through the training. But again, perhaps this is where we need to find out what is actually happening in the classroom. Just now, I think Puan Eileen had highlighted the inability of some teachers to come up with activities due to time, yeah, or creative activities. But these are real issues that need to be looked at, and I think at the ELSQC level, yeah, for Prof. Ainul and I are also very concerned about how we can ensure teaching quality is sustained, and how we can help the teachers to accommodate to what is necessary, yeah, to facilitate them with what is necessary. Perhaps from this webinar, we could get some feedback from the teachers who are in the audience. Yeah, thank you, Puan Azida. Moving on to a more hot issue, the topic of assessment. Yeah, there's been a lot of concern raised regarding classroom assessment in the implementation of the aligned curriculum. Ms. Eileen, can you explain briefly what some of these concerns are and how can teachers address these concerns effectively?
Thank you very much, Prof. Yes, it is a hot topic, classroom-based assessment. But let me assure our viewers out there that it is not unique to English language per se. It actually cuts across the board for all subjects where assessment is concerned. I don't think that it is due to the fact that classroom-based assessment is something new. In fact, I believe that all our teachers who are out there, we all have been trained, right? Whether it be from teacher colleges or from universities. It has always been a part of our training curriculum that we have to do classroom assessment, whether it's called formative or summative assessment. But I believe that maybe because it has been highlighted lately, hence we start to see cracks maybe, which we have not seen before, but they have been there. So Prof, as you ask, what are the concerns regarding this? We at Curriculum Development Division, we have a unit specifically looking into classroom-based assessment, and we actually are continuously looking for ways to support our teachers, whether it be in terms of materials and all that. But when it comes to the aligned curriculum, we have actually mentioned in our curriculum document. We have also mentioned in our schemes of work how teachers can actually carry out classroom assessment. I would like to pick on a point mentioned by Puan Azida from their findings that teachers are not, should I say, complying to the guidelines in the classroom-based assessment. Now, this can be many reasons, right? But I think we can say that our teachers out there are creative. And so when it comes to assessment, we have countless resources out there. We have many tools out there for us to carry out classroom assessment. Let me give you some examples how we can help our teachers out there with the kind of tools that we can use. Now, classroom assessment, as we say, is ongoing, right? And it is carried out during teaching and learning. So these tools can be used by teachers during teaching and learning. For example, like observations, when they carry out tasks and activities in the classroom, right? Teachers can just merely observe and that is already a tool for them to measure pupils' performance. Of course, pupils can be engaged in oral presentations, right? So that can be a tool as well itself. Quizzes and Q&As, I think that is conventional method of assessment. We have new methods like online games, assessment in terms of gamification, like Kahoot, quizzes. I think it's just so many out there. Our teachers out there, viewers, I'm sure you have plenty of examples that you can share with others or with us here. So maybe you can even suggest in our chat, what you have tried and worked for you. Now, part of the process of assessment, of course, is we need to record. It's one thing to just observe what the pupils can do, but we also need to have some kind of evidence. We're not talking about keeping files as evidence. It is just merely recording what the child they are able to do. If you record or if you assess them for that day on a particular skill, you need to record. And these records can be, just written in your record books. It can be in pupils' notebook or exercise books. Or you can even have a checklist. We hear of teachers who actually prepare a chart at the back of their class, and they actually put on the chart the learning outcomes that they would like to achieve, for example, or the skills that they would like the child to achieve. And you paste it at the back of the class, and that would also make the child keep track of their own performance. So I think there can be an element of self assessment for the child if you do that. So it's not just a one-way traffic in terms of assessing the pupils. So there's plenty of other ways that we can do assessment in the classroom, I believe. Yeah. And on another note on assessment, I think we do have to be cautious. Sometimes when we are so worried about how the child performs, we do get carried away. What do we mean by getting carried away? We give too many tests, or we do too much assessment. We don't know when to stop. It's like every lesson you want to assess the child. I think that is not necessarily so, because you are putting a lot of pressure on the child and they have lost the interest to want to learn. So I think we need to gauge, we need to use our judgment to know when do we want to assess them, right? And who do we want to assess for the day? It does not have to be a whole class assessment all the time. So it just depends on what and when the teacher wants to assess. So maybe some points for consideration when we do assessment for our viewers, right? Firstly, when we assess our pupils, we do have to look at it in a holistic manner, right? That means looking at how the child progresses throughout the lesson for the skills. You may be assessing the child maybe on listening, but for that day, maybe that particular objective may not be met, but we do not penalize the child on that particular lesson. So we have to look at all aspects. That's what we mean by holistic kind of assessment. Secondly, I think we do need to plan when we carry out assessment. Even though it may be formative in nature, but planning is important, like we do in our teaching. So we do have to plan. We examine or we assess the child, we record, and then we report the level which the child has achieved. So that in itself, I think, is important for the teacher to do effective assessment. Thirdly, I think, which has always been a concern, which is the professional judgment. Now, there's a lot been said about how do we do professional judgment in the classroom. Of course, it is very subjective, isn't it, when we talk about professional judgment, because everything lies on, it's between the teacher and the pupil. So it's just between the two. We should not be affected by what happened before this or outside elements, which may influence us and it may not be relevant and fair to the child. So teachers, when we do professional judgment, we do have to base it on our own knowledge about the subject matter. I think our professional experience would tell us how we can judge our pupil, right? And of course, our interaction with the pupils in the classroom, right? That would be strong basis for us to place our judgment professionally for the child. And last but not least, we have in our curriculum document or the DSKP, the performance, what they call that, the different performance levels for each skill. So that would be a reference point for the teacher in terms of determining at what level they should award the child or place the child at. Right, so I think that's my feedback on that, Prof, for now. Back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. Yes, this is another paradigm shift for our teachers. Apart from the aligned curriculum, they've also got to familiarize themselves with this new concept of assessment and how to assess, from summative to formative and class-based assessment. And again, the facilitation and I think the sharing is very important so that they know that it is a continuous learning process for everyone. And their journey is not alone. They can always raise issues and share with the friends, fellow teachers, also with BPK itself. I think you facilitate a lot for this as well. But Miss Eileen, teachers are still asking, what should they do when they discover that their students have not reached the required level of proficiency or standard of competency or have yet to achieve TP3? So to what extent have our pupils met the target levels, and how can we support our pupils in meeting their target, and what should these teachers do? And so what would your advice be, Ms. Eileen? Your mic, Ms. Eileen.
Thank you very much for the reminder. Okay. I think classroom assessment, it may not come naturally for just because we are not confident. We may not be confident in awarding the marks or the scores, and this happens everywhere. Should I give the child a TP1 or a TP2 or even a TP6? Now, if the child deserves a level 6, why not give the child a level 6? And if we are worried that if you give a level 6, it may not reflect the true ability, then we have evidence in the classroom. We have records. That's why earlier on I mentioned that teachers need to keep track of the progress of the child. And so if we have been tracking the progress of the child, then I think we should be confident enough in terms of awarding scores or the performance level for the child. Okay. Again, as we said, classroom assessment is an ongoing process, right? If the child doesn't get a level 6 for now, we take our time, we guide them, we support them, and we bring them through the processes through teaching and learning. So I think for classroom assessment, firstly, we need to collect information. To collect information in terms of the child's progress. And in order to do that, we need tools. Okay, again, as I said earlier on, assessment tools are important, but we must use the right tool to assess the appropriate skills in reading. If you are assessing the child for reading, then we have to find a tool that assesses the child's reading capability. Similarly for the other skills. So we use assessment tools to get feedback, right, regarding the child's ability, and also to diagnose what actually the child still lacks or what the child actually has strength in. And so we find further enrichment, we further support them so that they're able to move forward. So I think we as teachers, we have to be observant. We do not rush through the process. So we have to fairly treat the child and award them the appropriate level for them. So we track the progress of the child against what the objectives of the lessons are. And also we need to consistently review, re-strategize what our teaching and learning, our teaching practices are like, so that we are able to modify or enhance it towards our pupils' style or learning. That is why this diagnostic tool that we have in terms of measuring them, it also informs us as to are we doing the right thing. So so that we are confident enough, as I said just now, to assess our child. Now in the DSKP, we have actually what we call the Performance Standards Guides. Now this Performance Standards Guide, which you can see on the screen, it actually lists out the 6 levels, and these 6 performance levels are to determine where the child is at to the respective language skills, right? So these 6 levels also they take into account the language competence of the child in terms of the knowledge, the skills, and the values stipulated in the English language curriculum. So I have some statistics here which I'm going to share regarding results from the classroom-based assessment in 2021. Now, this data shows that for primary, pupils who were still at performance level 1 and 2, or TP1 and TP2, these represent pupils who have not met the curriculum target. That means they're below minimum achievement level. There's still about 3 to 13% of pupils from years 1 to 6. So these are for our primary pupils. There's still about, less than 20% who have not achieved minimum target levels in our curriculum. And for secondary, we have about 11 to 13%, so slightly less than primary. But we still have, on average, 92% who have achieved, right? 92% who have achieved for primary, and about 87% who have achieved our curriculum target level. So what does this mean for our teachers out there? Yes, we do have more pupils meeting target levels than those who don't meet, but we still do have to be concerned with those who have not met the target level, meaning that there's still work to be done, right? We cannot rest on our laurels and say, oh, we are doing fine in the classroom. So the assessment tools that we use should inform us how we can help our pupils, right? For each skill that we assess the child, we have to diagnose. Maybe the problem area may not be what it seems to be. So use the correct diagnostic tool when we assess our child, so that it can inform us of our teaching and learning. So I think my colleague from School of Inspectorate, later on maybe she will share more findings about our students' performance. So how do we move forward with this, Prof and the viewers out there? I think teachers should keep track, right? Of the pupils' progress, and more importantly, before the child actually progresses to the next academic year, find out where what their take-off values are. We need to know what is the starting point for each child. They may not be all at the same level, right? They may come, for example, if they were in year 1 last year, and most of the teaching and learning were carried out online. So we need to know where they stand. Are they all needing to start from, do we need to start from the beginning, or are they already actually, at midpoint? So this is where I think teachers need to keep track of where their students' exit level were in the previous year, and also find out what are the key concerns in terms of their strengths and their weakness. So I think maybe keeping track of their performance from previous years will give teachers an indication of where do we start with these kids who have just started school. Okay, so that's my response for now, Prof. Back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. It sounds like very much what we had hoped for, which is a learner-centered teaching and learning approach, where we are, you provide differentiated teaching to address the different needs of the students, and also reflective teaching by the teachers themselves to look at what action needs to be taken at every step of the development of their language learning. It sounds quite tedious, but it should be a natural experience or culture in the classroom itself if you're looking at a learner-centered curriculum. So congratulations on the statistics. 92% is a very, very admirable achievement there, and 87% for secondary schools. And yes, I do agree. We need to focus on those who still cannot. Because for the aligned curriculum, we're talking about can do. So there are still some who cannot. And I hope we together with the teachers would be able to address this. Again, this is something that will take time for us to adjust into how the remediation can be provided. But again, as you pointed out, the profiling of the students for the next level that they go into needs to be paid attention to, so that they will not be left behind again. Thank you, Ms. Eileen. Again, you pointed out about the pandemic issue, where everything was online. So the challenges there was also unique, and of course the challenges in implementing a new curriculum is double-fold then. So it was a problem, wasn't it, to observe how teaching was actually done online, and it'll be interesting to find out from Puan Azida whether what you can share with us, how teachers actually adapted to this disruptive change and conducted their lessons during the pandemic. Puan Azida?
Yes, Prof. Our education system actually changed overnight during the pandemic. Okay, so but BPSH actually came out with manual of pengajaran dan pembelajaran di rumah, PDPR. Okay, where the teachers can use one combination of this method in their lesson to suit people's situation and environment. Well, we can say online PDPR can be conducted when there is internet access with the use of devices that allow pupils to be in real-time lesson. Teachers implemented online PDPR via learning platforms such as Digital Educational Learning Initiative Malaysia, that is our DELIMA, Cikgu Tube, EduWeb TV, and social media applications such as Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, like what we are having now, live streaming, videos, audio clips, ebooks, and online recording or assessment. Online PDPR occurs without internet access, but pupils learn using devices such as computers, laptops, tablets, or smartphones. Pupils also learn using textbook or non-textbook material or other learning materials such as video, audio, slides, notes, and exercises downloaded from sources like DELIMA, Cikgu Tube, EduWeb TV, videos, audio clip, and ebook, wherever is available online. The process of downloading the material is done when there is internet access and later given to pupils through the appropriate medium of communication. This is for offline. The most used medium of offline PDPR are WhatsApp and Telegram. Then we have the last one, which is the offsite learning. Takes place in locations such as community center or any temporary evacuation center. Pupils learn by themselves or with the guidance of academic support team, AST, consisting of district education officers, the PPD, or appointed school teachers. It can also be implemented at other locations with the agreement of the schools, parents' guidance, as well as the community. The offsite PDPR team consists of teachers identified by the schools. Until now, Jemaah Nazir or Inspectorate of Schools only inspected online and offline PDPR so far. There was no offsite as yet.
Right. Thank you, Puan Azizah. That sounds quite a comprehensive adaptation that was quickly put up by the Minister of Education to facilitate the change in teaching mode. Yeah, but what were the actual what real challenges did the teachers face in trying to adopt these various ways of teaching during the pandemic?
Okay. Yes, Prof. There were many challenges faced by teachers, but they are very, very good at quickly adjusting, adapting, adopting to the changes. Bravo to teachers, right? Okay, different phases of online teaching and learning demand different competency because online teaching and learning involve preparing, planning, and designing the lesson in 3 different phases. We can see that they have to do what they have to do before, during, and after the online teaching and learning. So let's look at the first challenge. Before they start teaching, okay, all the teachers around the world face almost the same problem, not only in Malaysia, but all over the world. Because they were thrown into deep end and expected to find ways to teach and educate pupils in whatever medium possible available for them and the pupils. Not only do teachers need to apply suitable teaching strategies to improve their lesson objective, but they also need to consider other external factors that are able to contribute to the success of online teaching. We can see that in Malaysia, throughout our observation on teachers during online teaching, we see at the beginning of the MCO, the teachers basically struggle to prepare lesson plan that can impart knowledge and skill within the given time. Okay, let's say they have 1 hour or 30 minutes class. Okay, some still have to prepare, or some still during this PDP online, they actually prepare using conventional teaching method as if like they are in their own normal classroom. Okay, they don't know how to actually do it online. Okay, then secondly, we also see how they can attract, or they were struggling in attracting people to actually join the online class. Okay, why they can't join? Because, you know, not only the teacher lacks of knowledge and skill using technology, the students are also struggling. Okay, the teachers, let's look at the teachers. The teachers did not get enough training to prepare them for full e-learning or online learning, especially in choosing the appropriate digital application or tools which are suitable for the pupil, suitable for the task or activity, thus making them mentally and physically exhausted. You know, it's not easy to choose which one is feasible, which one is doable, not only for them, but also for the pupils. Then we can also, like I mentioned earlier, the pupil itself, they were not ready either. They were also struggling even to actually log in, to navigate the lesson, where to go, what to do, how to turn in the task, how to upload, how to download. Even simple times like, you know, turn on your mic, turn off your camera, that also took time. Thus making online lesson, you know, unattractive for them to join. We could say that at the beginning, the teachers and pupils lack digital literacy. That's what they faced during the first phase of this teaching and learning during the pandemic. Okay, then we move on to the second phase, which is during the implementation of the lesson. First and foremost, the connectivity. Yes, we know that pupils and teachers face slow connectivity. Some even had no connectivity at home, that they have to go far away from home just to get connected, just to be online. Some couldn't even afford to use postpaid line, resulting in limited data for daily use. Then we also look at the other important aspect, that is lack or insufficient of gadget for teaching and learning. Some pupils had no laptop, had no tablet, have no phone, and some have to share with their siblings. So low-income family can't afford to buy smartphone for each child. Some had to wait until their parents return from home before they could use the phone for learning purposes. Then, how do we make the lesson interesting throughout the 30 minutes, throughout 1 hour online lesson? How do we sustain the interest of 30 to 40 pupils online? Okay, we also need not only ask them to be online, but we want them to be active learners during the teaching and learning. Teachers were struggling, to get their pupil to respond even to a simple question. Sometimes we could see that only the teacher did the talking. Everybody was silent. Okay, most of the time this happened during online teaching. Teacher had difficulty also choosing which apps or tools to use in order to create engaging lesson. Okay, that is like, during the implementation, during the classroom. Then afterward, once they have done with teaching, they also need to think of like, how much homework should we give to the pupils? To give or not to give, but how much? And then the teachers also need to think of what kind of homework that is suitable or doable for the pupil to do during the MCO, during the lockdown. Do they have access to the textbook or the workbook, or they only have access only doing e-textbook and SOW? And then after giving them the homework, how do you think the teacher can mark them? How? Because the teacher are not clear on how to do online marking. Okay, and some of the pupils were not able to send in their tasks or homework. How do you submit the homework, and how do the teacher mark them? Would online quizzes or online live worksheet be sufficient enough as for their homework to actually be part of the remedial or part of the enrichment activity in the online lesson? And finally, the school also yet to establish a system in sending or collecting the teaching and learning material for offline learning. So these are what the teachers as well as the school were facing during the pandemic.
Thank you, Puan Azida, for that description of what challenges were there for the teachers as well as for the students, yeah? So given all those early limitations, shortcomings and so forth, and the teachers trying to overcome the limitations, I would say these are our unsung heroes. Yeah, also frontliners during the pandemic for having to go through this and also surviving out of it. Yeah. So what would you say? Would you say that the teachers adapted well to the changes during the pandemic, and what good takeaways did they, from this experience, do you think they have kept with them for that was, continued by them even after this post-pandemic phase?
Yes, Prof. I agree with you. They are the unsung hero. Okay, they were our frontliners. They did a lot of work, but the public don't really see it. But actually, they did. The preparation before online classes were tremendous, and most of all, they have to do it on their own because we were not prepared. All of us were not prepared for it. So when PDPR 1.0 was first introduced, it was a zero experience for teachers as they were not trained to teach. They were trained to teach only classroom face-to-face, but not online, right? Yeah. Okay, that's what the training given to them. However, improvements are always made by teachers based on their experience in implementing PDPR since the first year. Gradually, you can see that teachers who have the experience, they were able to manage it. They were able to actually swim, you know. There is abundance of English language teaching resources online compared to the other subject. Apparently, okay, the most comprehensive scheme of work, the one provided, the SOW, provided by MOE, is the key guideline for teachers in planning, creating and delivering their lesson throughout the year, especially during the online lesson. On another note, the same amount of contact hours for English language during PDPR and face-to-face learning, which is 120 minutes per week, respectively, allow teachers to have ample time to deliver their lesson. In addition, there are tutorial sessions also for 90 minutes per week during PDPR. So the teacher make full use of the hours given to them. The teaching process has changed from face-to-face to online teaching environment that hinges heavily on technology. English teachers have begun to improve their digital skills to impart knowledge to pupils and at the same time produce digitally literate pupils of students. Despite the issue of digital access and technology, the teaching process becomes easy actually during this online because a lot of apps or tools that they can use. For example, for listening and speaking activity, they can use Google Meet, video or voice recording, something like using apps like Nearpod's apps, okay? Meanwhile, listening and reading activity can be done through live worksheet by converting the exercises in the textbook to digital interactive exercises. A lot of teachers use Kahoot, quizzes or Mentimeter that injected the element of gamification in assessment, making it fun, making the learning fun, making the assessment fun actually. And then we can also see that Padlet or Jamboard enable collaborative activities in teaching and learning. Although now that the PDPR is almost over, okay, teachers are still using all these methods, you know, in their face-to-face teaching. So it's something good that happened to them. They are not all digitally literate teachers and people actually.
Yeah, thank you, Puan Azida. That's good to know. I'm sure many teachers are surprised at how well they are how apt and how well they can conduct using gaming activities even in their classrooms now. Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah. And but Puan Azida, how do we ensure that this goes on, this quality of teaching from these good practices that teachers have taken, developed the skills during the pandemic? How do we ensure that it will be continued even after, even now, post-pandemic?
Okay, based on our inspection, as I said earlier, there were two main concerns or struggles that the teacher has to feel. One is in preparing engaging interactive lesson plan with suitable digital apps or tools where they move away from conventional teaching. And then the other one is how do they attract pupils to join and participate in the online class. Having said those weaknesses, Jemaah Nazir had proposed recommendation for improvement. For example, it is suggested that teachers should continuously improve their teaching and learning quality by enhancing their pedagogical skill. So they need to actually look at different pedagogy skills that they can use, they can infuse, whether online or offline. Okay, this can be done through coaching and mentoring or peer teaching within the English language panels in school. Besides that, teachers can also get guidance from the SISC Plus, especially regarding the 21st century learning methods. Okay. Then also teachers should be given continuous guidance on how to execute better teaching and learning. State Education Department like JPN and District Education Office PPD can collaborate with school to organize several courses regarding technological pedagogical content knowledge. We have now technological infused in our pedagogy as part also as the teaching, how do you say, the new element should go. So people will also only talk about pedagogical content knowledge, but now we have the new one where technology is also part of it, the TPAC model, right? This is to enable teachers to carry out teaching and learning more effectively. Collaboration with ELTC, okay, and BPG can also help in enhancing the quality of teaching and learning. And then we also like to propose sharing, sharing among teachers where they should share their best practices in videos or face-to-face in order to carry out creative and interesting and also meaningful teaching and learning. Last but not least, we also must look at the effective monitoring mechanism that should be done to ensure that the classroom-based assessment or PBD is carried out accordingly. Teachers must ensure the lesson plan comprises of all the skill and knowledge needed for the pupils to master the targeted language. Thus, teacher must be well versed of the content and the curriculum target levels. Yes. As for the school inspection, we use the SKPM G2 to retain the quality standard of teaching and learning of the teachers in school. Okay, we look at the standard 4, so the teachers should use the standard 4 to actually plan, to design, and how they want to implement their lesson in the classroom.
Thank you, Puan Azida. I'm very curious. How did JN conduct their monitoring during the pandemic session?
Okay, during the pandemic session, we actually had a few inspections involving teaching and learning of the English language subject. Okay, so we had a few. One is pemeriksaan kelas bercantum, which was held on 7 to 12 September 2020. And we also had pemeriksaan digital, that is 18 April to 18 June 2021. We also have tinjauan PDPR, 17 February to 2nd March 2021. So we look at how the lesson was conducted online during the PDPR. And lastly, last year, we had pemeriksaan mata pelajaran bahasa Inggeris tahun 2021. It was held in October last year. Okay, so during this pandemic, we actually when different phases during the MCO, we have phase 1, 2, 3. So some we went down to school where we actually observed the lesson face to face. Some we have online, some we have offline as well. So we actually do it as and when they are actually teaching them. Either they teach them online, either they teach them offline or face-to-face, we actually observe them. Yes, we did carry that out.
Yeah, thank you. Because monitoring of its implementation is one of the key ways for us to have close insights into what's going on in the classroom and how the teachers are actually interpreting the syllabus and how the students themselves are receiving the new aligned curriculum in their learning itself. So how does JN plan to continue to monitor this adherence to the aligned curriculum, Puan Azida?
Yes, Prof. From time to time, JN have inspection as well as the inspection as well as the observation. Okay, we look at the classroom with using or focuses on the curriculum, the current curriculum. So here we look at the CEFR-aligned curriculum in the classroom itself. So we do have it. So we refer to whatever is the current curriculum in place. Apart from that, we have also looked at other instrument, that is the supporting instrument, focuses on the aspect in the CEFR-aligned curriculum. Okay, on top of that, we also look at all the initiative by KPM such as the classroom-based assessment, we look at higher order thinking skill, we also look at values and so forth.
Right, thank you, Nazida. That's at the very important at that micro level that we are able to observe all this and be able to measure, the effectiveness that is in terms of teaching that's going on in the classroom. But how about at the macro level? I'd like to move to Prof. Ainul. At the macro level, how should continuous monitoring be conducted?
Thank you, Dr. Fazita. In the spirit of continuous monitoring, I think the idea is for any continuous monitoring is that for us to actually look into what are areas of weaknesses or what are the areas of strength in the whole curriculum in terms of two aspects. One is what we have seen from Azida is that on the delivery, so the process of teaching and learning in the classroom. But we also would like to look at continuous improvement if there is any areas of concern in the output or the product, be it in terms of teacher competency, what are the areas of concern in terms of how teachers are coping with the delivery, as well as output or product in terms of students' achievement. So all these things we have seen actually in the last 1 hour, a humongous amount of information from JN as well as from BPK that actually needs to be put together so that we can have a well-informed decision. What are our areas of concern? What should be the areas of concern? And then I think I would suggest that this is done at the central body. So with all this humongous amount of information, reports from BPK as well as JN, if we can have like an intermittent or a curriculum review of every 3 or 4 years at the central body in which all this information can be gathered, and we can do systematic and scheduled quality assurance and monitoring the delivery and output of the new curriculum, and of course along with the central body at the ELSQC. So that is how I see it, because we are all doing it, but they are not collated together for us to make an informed decision.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Ainul. Yes, the concerted or the synergy in terms of information, in terms of sharing, I think is crucial, because as we have heard, it's at not only at the micro level, but it moves up. It's a dynamic process. Moves up to the macro, and then macro needs to pay attention what needs to be done at the classroom level or the micro level itself. On the same issue, Puan Azida, how can teachers be helped to ensure that the lesson activities they implement in class have a positive impact on students' learning? And how can teachers be assisted in terms of their mastery of the content knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge? Because we know, teaching quality, sits in the quality of the teacher itself. So all these concerns are out there. So, Puan Azida?
Okay, we look at first at how teacher can ensure that the lesson activity they implemented in class have a positive impact on students. Okay, they can by actually creating activities that enable pupils to connect between what they have learned in the classroom to their daily life. It should be across the curriculum. It should tell the purpose of why they are learning English language, what is it for, what do I get from it, why it is important to learn English language. There is a purpose, it's easier for them actually to, follow the activity, because now they have a purpose for learning it. The lesson activity also should portray the pupil's achievement. Okay, this is to show how well they are doing in the language. Teachers should compliment them, teachers should show what they are good at, as this is also part of the formative assessment. Okay, sharing what their strengths, sharing their weaknesses. Activity also should create opportunities for pupils to practice the language, to feel secure in making mistakes, to have fun learning the language. It should be make a student-centered lesson where you actually empower your pupils. In terms of the mastery in content knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge, a focused professional learning community like PLC through peer coaching project in school or district. Okay, we should do that, and teacher also should exchange strategies and method for teaching difficult skills or dealing with different levels of learners. Teachers must know what the skills and sub-skills are that they want to impart to the pupils. Be aware of the gaps, okay, the gaps between where the pupil is and where they are going or where they are heading. This can or should be we should address this by creating opportunities to practice the language in the task or activity during the teaching and learning session in the classroom. Last but not least, teachers should build networks, okay, to share their best practices either through recorded lesson or workshop. They can do it in a lots of medium nowadays, let it be face-to-face or online.
Thank you, Puan Nazida. I'm sure the teachers in the audience really appreciate your insights, because I'm very sure not many have had the opportunity to listen from JN itself. Yeah, all this information that you are sharing. And I think you also echo Miss Eileen's suggestions just now in terms of how they can be more creative and addressing the differentiated needs by the teachers. So I'd like to turn to Miss Eileen now. On the part of BPK, what can the teachers expect in terms of facilitation and support? Miss Eileen?
Thank you, Prof. I was very enlightened, and in fact, it was a good insight into what the findings from JN, which has been shared earlier. So I think that is very important feedback, not only for teachers, but I think even for us here at the ministerial level. Now, what can teachers expect in terms of facilitation? We continuously try to support our teachers in whatever ways. And one of the recent exercise which ministry was involved in, especially during the pandemic, was to create a platform where we can provide resources for our teachers. And as we are all aware, last year, we went all out with the KPM Perkasaku exercise. It's a program to support our teachers in terms of curriculum and in helping our pupils to catch up with teaching and learning. And out of that program, we managed to produce a platform for our digital learning resources, which you can see on screen. And there's also a link there for teachers to browse if you have not browsed yet. Now, this platform, which is called Sumberku, is an initiative to support the KPM Perkasaku program. So in that program, this Sumberku is a repository of digital learning resources. And they are not only for teachers and pupils, but actually for parents. So this means that parents can also download the resources from this platform, and they just have to go to the, click on the link, and they don't even need to have an ID, and you do not need to be in KPM to be able to access. It is for all. And the beauty of this platform is that we have almost all the subjects there for primary, for secondary. And there are even materials that you can actually choose according to the level of your pupils. So I think this is one way that we try to facilitate to support our teachers out there. However, that said, teachers out there are so creative, as we said and shared by our colleagues earlier on. I think during this pandemic, it has brought the best out of our teachers in terms of creativity, in terms of coming up with something from nothing. And I believe that with teaching, they have done tremendous job in coming up with ways to bring our pupils back to learning, especially during this the online learning. So I think we do not have to do much for teachers, but of course we do continue to support them. There's a lot of materials out there already on different platforms, and so we hear your voices, teachers. So let us know what you need and what you can actually share with the other teachers. It doesn't always have to come from up here. We don't always have to depend on the ministry to help us to come up with resources. In fact, we hear your voices and we actually commend you on the things that you've done, and we've seen it uploaded on YouTube, on all the media platforms out there. I mean, so yes, we applaud you for your effort, and please continue to do so in these times. So back to you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Eileen, for the encouraging message. Because yes, I think kudos to the teachers for turning out their best. Yeah, turning out their best even in all these problems and challenges of the pandemic, as well as being introduced or being familiarized to a new aligned curriculum. Yeah, so maybe Puan Ainul, would you like to add some advice or to give another advice, or to further motivate our teachers?
Yeah, first of all, I think I would like to applaud the Jemaah Nazir as well as BPK for their efforts in providing platforms for sharing, because I think the best practice or the best way forward is actually the spirit of sharing amongst teachers in terms of the delivery and all the things that they have been doing in schools. And to teachers, I think now in the era of sharing, in which there are so many platforms, every day we share what we eat, what we buy, what we do. So the same spirit, I think, should be brought forward to our professional area as well, in which the spirit is not just to show off, but the fact that we know that people can learn from what we do. Or rather, perhaps later we will also learn because people will start to comment or give suggestions to what we do. So now I think perhaps, if we have that same spirit in schools at the school level, so we'll go up to the other levels, and then inshallah it will turn out okay. So that's my advice, or my take on that.
Thank you, Prof. Ainul. Yeah. And we move on to another controversial issue. Yeah, this has been raised many times, but have not been directly addressed. I hope in this session we are able to look at it, to look at the problem and this issue or queries about it will not develop into something more controversial. This is about, of course, the use or the selection of international textbooks for classroom use that came along with the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum. Yeah, even though it has been numerously pointed out that the teachers have been trained and are encouraged to adapt their teaching materials to suit the differentiated needs of their students, as well as to bridge any gaps or even cultural gaps, so that they will be able to comprehend and understand what needs to be learned, right? But still, the concerns are there about the textbooks needing, that the textbook should be localized, and only with this localization would there be higher level of understanding or comprehension. So, Prof. Ainul, what is your take on this perception that the textbooks should be culturally familiar to to students to help them acquire the English language?
The use of foreign or non-local produced textbooks is an issue, or was an issue in the early part of the introduction of the new curriculum. And we must understand that this was inevitable, because in the old curriculum, in the new curriculum, it is proficiency based in nature, in that the framework is based on development of the holistic proficiency, and therefore the development of the 4 skills are given equal or given importance. Yeah? And therefore, having the old textbook or having the old materials did not suit that needs. So inevitably, we had to use the readily available, particularly the Cambridge text, and therefore, again, inevitably, the content of the Cambridge or the readily available text had content that were locally found not suitable, or for that matter, most of the time is because the teachers themselves were not familiar with some of the content. But of course, we had to address this. We have to realize this, that theories and research have shown that the more remote the L2 or the foreign language or the second language is from the original culture of the learner, the more difficult or the more challenging it is for the learners to actually learn the second language or the foreign language. Okay? And research also have shown that sometimes it's also on the part of the teacher, that if the teacher themselves feel that the L2 is so remote from his or her own culture or worldview, therefore they themselves feel unfamiliar, number one. Number two, uncomfortable with the cultural content of the text. Okay? However, I strongly believe that that phase that we went through is almost over, because I've seen in the 3rd and the 4th year of the new curriculum being introduced, teachers have actually slowly done their own local-made materials, and they've also come up with their own tailor-made materials that suit the classroom, and that these materials have been shared in the public platform, and the other teachers are using. And I'm sure this culture of sharing has not stopped, but there will come a point where probably we will have to address that. We will have to come up with the materials that are suitable for the local context. And last but not least is also that competency in the teachers, in which there is a need for teachers to actually realize that in whatever resources that are provided by the ministry, there's always the need for teachers to improvise or to come up with your homegrown materials for any curriculum. Prof. Hazita?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Aino. Yes, for giving us to both sides, of the argument with regards to the use of the international textbook. I'd like to turn to Ms. Eileen. To what extent do you think teachers should be concerned about these cultural elements in the international textbooks that are used in the classroom currently?
Thank you, Prof, for the question. I do agree with Prof. Aino that when we first roll out the CEFR-aligned curriculum and having to use textbooks which were off the shelf, there were different opinions about it. Not all were against it in the beginning. I think maybe because when you're unfamiliar with something, immediately we raise our guards up and we tend to resist. But I think after having realized that the textbook come hand in hand with the curriculum that we have developed, and we can see that, again, the textbook is just as a guide. It's just as a guide, but the textbooks have been selected carefully so as to meet the requirements of the curriculum. So we believe that over time, teachers have learned to accept and to use it. However, in the textbook, we cannot run away from the element of culture in there. It has always been sensitive if we talk about certain taboo subjects. Even in curriculum, in any subjects, we do try to be sensitive towards elements that we deem may be culturally unacceptable, like religion or race and so on and so forth. So this, we can see traces of it. I would say traces of it in the textbook. However, they are not deliberated in depth. They are used merely to compare or maybe to explain further about points, a learning point in the teaching. But it is not taught specifically to inculcate that, or to actually have pupils change their mindset about the things like, for example, maybe they bring up things about seasons, the 4 seasons, for example, or they may talk about certain cultural, religious practices, which may be, sensitive to some, but I don't think it is the purpose to introduce that, but it's just for a language reference in the context. However, I'd like to draw us back to what the curriculum is based on. If you look at the KSSR and KSSM framework, the context where learning takes place very much lies in the themes. If you look at the framework, we have themes for primary and themes for secondary, which forms a platform for the teachers to choose topics to teach the language point. So one of the themes is on culture. So I think it is right and appropriate that we have introduced cultures in some of the topics in the textbooks to have a point where we can compare how different and how similar we are to different cultures across in other parts of the world. So that would, I think, be an advantage for our pupils. So I don't think we should be overly concerned, right? But again, here the teacher plays a very critical role in determining how much or to what extent that particular topic related to culture or otherwise, how the teacher imparts it and how she mediates between the content of the material and what the pupils should know. So teachers again play that critical role in determining it, and I don't think there should be any point of concern where cultural elements in the textbooks are at this point. So that is my perspective on the topic. Back to you, Prof.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. I hope they'll put to rest the voices that have been raised about about the textbook. Yeah, and unfortunately, we've come full circle here for this session. Thank you, Prof. Ainul, Ms. Eileen, and Puan Azida for sharing your insights and views with us today. If I may recap our discussion today, which evolved around 4 pertinent issues that have been raised by teachers and educators engaged in the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum at schools. And what we have managed to address today is firstly the need to have continuous familiarization of the CFR among teachers and the need to dispel misconceptions. Yeah, I also hope that the brief on the panel describing how the implementation of the aligned curriculum is monitored has been clear to ensure quality teaching and learning is sustained in the English language education ecosystem. Right, Nazir and also BPK has shared with us all the different facilitations that have been provided, And the issue of intervention and remediation, to help weak students where assessment, coming off from the assessment issue, to ensure that no child is left behind in attaining the aspired competencies. That also is an important reality that needs to be closely monitored by all the sectors concerned. Which has been pointed out by Puan Azida and also Prof. Ainul as well as Ms. Eileen, that this requires ELTC, even the ELSQC, together with BPK, Jemaah Nazir, the state and district education departments, as well as the schools itself, to work together and work closely for us to keep on monitoring and looking at how these gaps or remediation can be conducted at the school level. And finally, the issue on local element and culturally unfamiliar content in textbooks just now as raised. I hope it could be put to rest by now, and as well because it is clearly something that is just there. Also, we are looking at developing our students as global citizens, so they should be also be internationally exposed, and also, and as pointed out by Ms. Eileen just now, is there are other materials that support the textbooks itself. So it should not be a threat anymore and should not be negatively perceived. So while we, at the same time, we hope our local writers and also teachers will become more apt at writing good CEFR-aligned materials. That's what we are hoping for. And again, the teachers, the creative teachers that we have out there are the one in the meantime, bridging the gap with all your creativity. And I hope you can keep on doing your good work. So on that note, I hope those participating in this webinar has found this session informative and useful towards building a stronger understanding of the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum and the aspirations of the English language education reform roadmap. So again, thank you, ladies, Ms. Eileen, Puan Azida, Prof. Ainul, and thank you to the audience.